Everybody, what's going on? Hellknight here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. Today I wanted to talk about the current Worlds meta and essentially Riot's decision-making process behind the champions and the changes that they made prior to Worlds. Now, if you haven't been paying attention or watching any of the play in stage, shall we say the champion pool has been fairly diverse, but there have also been a lot of very notable picks that have been getting played, or at least have very high presence in champion select. Now, those champions tend to generally be Urgot and Aatrox, as top lane bullies are almost 100% pick ban. I believe Aatrox still is pick ban. Urgot, I know, has gotten through a couple of games without being in champ select, but that still puts him at 99-98% pick ban. Akali is another one, 99% pick ban. Alistair has also been a very high priority, not quite as high as the others, but has definitely been very prevalent in the ban phase. And Kai'Sa as well has been another champion that has been played more often than she has, more often than almost any other champion at the tournament so far, and has also acquired a fair number of bans as well. She is definitely a champion that pros are willing to let the enemy team play, unlike Aatrox and Urgot, but it's definitely still something that is not played very much. So there are all these champions that are essentially must pick or must ban champions at the end of the day. Those are, and there are quite a few of them this year around, unlike last year where or 2015 I should say, where you had Gangplank and Mordekaiser essentially occupying 2 ban slots on red side, and then there are a bunch of other champions that are getting played because those 2 have to be banned. Those 3 champions I just talked about tend to be champions that are generally always prevalent in champ select this year so far. And now this has led to a lot of complaints, I guess you could say, from people watching the game, from people spectating the game, by basically saying, you know, Riot, what is the decision-making process? How come these champions have been allowed to be so good for so long? How come they haven't been nerfed? Essentially, what is going on with this? Especially because the community, for a lot of these champions, was saying in advance, you know, basically, what is the decision-making process behind this? Why would you not nerf these champions? We all knew Kai'Sa was a problem in advance. We all knew these champions were problems in advance. Why would you not nerf them? Now, I think that this is for a couple of different reasons, and I did want to kind of talk about this today. First, I think that Riot might have made a mistake in not changing things. However, at the end of the day, I think that if you had nerfed any of these top-tier picks, the default picks just would have been shifted down a rung. In the same way that you kind of play whack-a-mole when you have balance changes in a video game. If the S-tier picks absolutely play in every game get nerfed, then that just means that the A-tier picks start showing up more often and the S-tier picks maybe don't show up at all. If all the A-tier picks get nerfed as well, then the B-tier picks start becoming the new A-tier picks and start getting played in every game. So I don't know necessarily that Riot nerfing any of these top-tier picks would have necessarily done anything, because sure, if you do nerf down Aatrox and Urgot and they are no longer in playable situations, then you would just see Cho'Gath and Ornn and Maokai in the top lane constantly, as opposed to seeing these sort of top lane bullies. If you were to nerf the jungle pool, for example, you would see a lot of the B-tier junglers come back, like Sejuani and a lot of the other picks that people have been playing quite often. And that's kind of something I'm getting at here, is that I don't think Riot was necessarily in the wrong to not nerf these champions, because I think at the end of the day, you would have still ended up in a situation where the champions are still getting played. You know, you would still have champions crowding out other picks. You would still have very consistent champion selects where people are pretty much banning and picking the same things. Now, I do think that at the end of the day, Riot could have done something to nerf some of these champions. I think that at the end of the day, Urgot may have needed nerfs. I will eat a little bit of crow for that video I put out earlier this week saying, oh, Urgot's totally fine. At this point, with how much he's being picked and banned, I can't necessarily maintain that same point of view. I think that if there are counters to Urgot, they would have been getting played by now, unless the teams in the play-in stage just don't have the skill level or the knowledge necessary to figure out something. I'm expecting potentially some Urgot counters to come out once we hit the group stage, because you have you have better teams playing, and I've had a lot more time to think about, wow, Urgot's really strong. What are we going to do against it? What kind of strategies are we going to formulate in champ select to deal with it? And I'm using Urgot as an example here. Obviously, this goes true for a lot of other champions. But so generally speaking, I think that they might not have made the correct decision in not nerfing Urgot. I think that Aatrox, who already had a fairly high percentage of plays in professional play, might have needed nerfs as well. Akali is a bit of a different situation. I think she did receive nerfs prior to Worlds, and a lot of teams were not opting into her, so I don't necessarily know that Akali getting through scot-free was something that Riot should have expected. I really do think that at the end of the day, that's something that that they made the right decision making on. She wasn't getting played that much in professional play, and then she kind of really picked up in priority. But I think Akali also has a lot more counter picks as well, so that's not necessarily as big of a deal. But in general, I think that Riot could have maybe played a little bit more cautiously with their balance changes, but I do like the strategy at the end of the day that they opted for instead of nerfing down the top tier picks, because like I said, that just ends up playing whack-a-mole. Other picks come up. Instead, nerfing or buffing up champions that instead have better counter some of the current meta champions. I think that was a good idea. I think that bringing back Fiora, bringing back Darius gives you options against some of the tank champions of the top lane. They're also strong lane bullies, so potentially being options to play into the Aatrox or into the Urgot. I think Darius actually has a pretty favorable matchup into the Aatrox, provided he can avoid the skill shots. So I think that Riot buffing up these champions was still a good thing because it gives you a slightly broader pool. Obviously, you still have picks that are going to crowd out others, but it does mean that as the tournament goes on, teams have more options to look for in terms of counter picks, as opposed to kind of saying, well, there's literally nothing else in the meta that we could play that's strong that's going to do anything to deal with Urgot, so we have to ban him or pick him in every game. So at the end of the day, I think that this is an interesting approach for Riot that kind of goes against what we normally see them do, which is they play whack-a-mole, they nerf the S tier picks, and we still end up with a worlds where all the champions getting played are the exact same, just a tier down. So I like this approach. I do want to kind of hold off on full judgment for Riot until I can actually see how things end up at the end of the day. So I do kind of want to wait and see how the tournament plays out and if this was a good idea or not. But we will end up having to see how it goes on. If the group stage is more of the same, then maybe the strategy didn't work out for Riot at the end of the day, and they will have to rethink their strategy. However, if things do change once we hit groups and champions start, or teams start bringing out different champions, different picks, that would be really interesting to see. So anyways, those are just my kind of thoughts on the Worlds meta. I know a lot of people are really upset with it, saying, Riot, you should have nerfed these champions. So if you're one of those people, let me know down in the comment section below. Would love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed today's video, go ahead and leave a like. And if you really enjoyed today's video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. And if you're looking for more Grab the Lantern content, you can check out my blog, which is linked down in the description. I upload articles just about each and every single day for your enjoyment. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I will talk to you all later.